stars above Virelia 9 burned red. Every night the sky looked like it was on fire. The colony world had once been a place of peace. Green fields, silver towers and children laughing under twin suns. Now, everything was smoke and silence. The Threx Dominion had come without warning. Their warships tore through the human defense lines in orbit like paper. Cities fell one by one, and what was left of humanity on the frontier now hid deep underground. The Galactic Council, the so-called protectors of peace, had sent no help. Their message was cold and final. Earth's colonies are outside of the protection zone. To them, humanity's outer worlds were already dead. Captain Mara Voss stood at the edge of the last defense bunker, her uniform burned and torn. Her face was covered in dust and blood, but her eyes still held fire. Around her, exhausted colonists worked on broken machines. The air was thick with fear, but no one dared to speak it aloud. "Captain," one of the engineers whispered. "The last transmission failed again. The relay is gone." Mara didn't answer. She just stared at the holographic map showing the alien fleet above them, hundreds of ships surrounding Virelia 9 like vultures. She clenched her fist. "We'll find another way," she said softly. "Earth will hear us. Even if I have to scream into the void myself." But deep down, even she wondered if Earth could hear anything this far out. The Terran Navy was days away, maybe weeks, and the Threx weren't waiting. Above the planet, the alien Admiral Karthvak watched from his flagship, the Dominator. His scales glowed a dull orange under the warlight. He smiled as the last human orbital station exploded. "It is done," he hissed to his officers. "No help will come for them now." He opened a channel to the surface, broadcasting across every remaining human comm tower. "People of Virelia, surrender. No ship from Earth will come for you. Your council has forsaken you." The message echoed in every bunker. Some humans dropped their tools, their hope dying right there. But Mara didn't. She looked up at the static-filled sky and whispered, "They can say what they want, but Earth never forgets." Outside, the colony burned. The ground shook as Threx bombardments continued. The soldiers guarding the last line of defense were young, too young, some barely 20. Their faces were pale, hands trembling as they held their rifles. One of them, a boy named Eli, turned to Mara. "Ma'am, if they hit the reactor zone, we won't have any power left. Then we'll fight in the dark," she said without hesitation. Her voice was calm, cold, but it carried strength. Hours passed like years. The bombardment never stopped. But in the deepest levels of the bunker, an old signal monitor blinked. Faint, weak but alive. Technician Sarah Cain rushed to it, her voice shaking. "Captain, you need to see this." Mara ran to her side. On the screen, a broken transmission was repeating, the sound of static and distortion, but beneath it, something human. "This is TNS Retribution. Hold the line." The voice was deep, metallic, and filled with authority. The signal repeated again and again. Every colonist nearby stopped moving, listening in silence. Eli whispered, "Retribution. That can't be real. That ship's just a myth." Mara smiled faintly. "Every myth starts somewhere," she said. Her heart pounded as she leaned closer to the signal feed. If the Retribution was really out there, it meant Earth was coming outside. The Threx scanners picked up something strange at the edge of the system. A distortion in deep space, unstable, enormous, and moving fast. Their ships tried to scan it, but the readings made no sense. The energy signature was Terran, but ancient. Powerful and alive, Karthvak frowned. "Impossible. The Terrans have no such ship," he growled. But still, the readings grew stronger. Something massive was approaching through the dark, back on the surface. Mara watched the static on the monitor shift into a faint image, a black shape gliding through deep space, larger than any known battleship. Her breath caught. "That's a dreadnought," she whispered. The colonists stared at the projection. The silhouette of the ship looked like a beast from the old Terran wars. Forged from darkness itself, suddenly the signal grew stronger. The voice on the radio became clear. "This is Admiral Holt of the Terran Dreadnought Retribution. To all survivors on Virelia 9, hold the line. Help is coming." The bunker erupted in noise, cheers, Sobs, disbelief for the first time in weeks. The humans felt alive again. Eli grinned through tears. They heard us, Captain. They actually heard us. Mara stood tall, her hands shaking but her eyes steady. She looked toward the burning sky and whispered, Admiral Holt, you better be real. Above the stars, something shifted. A shadow cut across the alien fleet. The void trembled, and for a moment, even the Threx stopped firing. Something ancient and terrible was coming through the darkness. A sound like thunder echoed across space. The retribution was arriving, and humanity's vengeance was about to begin. For the first time in weeks, the bombardment stopped. The night sky above Virelia 9 went quiet. Too quiet. The Threx ships held their fire, hanging motionless in orbit like dark predators waiting for movement. Something had changed in the void, and everyone could feel it. Captain Mara Voss stood near the ruined observatory, staring up at the stars. The scanners were alive with strange readings, gravity waves, distortions, echoes of something massive moving through deep space. It wasn't just another ship, it was something that bent the laws of physics just by existing. Behind her, Sarah Kine, the young technician, adjusted the long-range dish, her hands trembling. Captain, the signal's growing stronger as it's definitely human, but it's not like any Terran frequency I've ever seen. Mara frowned. Keep it locked, she said, and record everything. Her voice was calm, but her mind was racing. If this really was the retribution, it meant help was coming. But also something far greater. The Dreadnought-class ships were old. From before the Alliance treaties, from the time when Earth fought alone. Some said they were half machine, half mind, powered by reactors that burned brighter than small stars. But no one had seen one in centuries deep in orbit. Aboard the Threx flagship Dominator, Admiral Karthvak paced the deck. The alien officers hissed reports in their native tongue. Admiral, the Terran signal continues to approach. Its speed is beyond calculation. It's coming through dark space. Karthvak slammed his claws on the table. Dark space is impossible to cross. No living thing survives there. But the readings didn't lie. A massive object was cutting through the void, warping gravity and light as it moved. He turned to his war council, his voice sharp and cold. Ready all cannons. Deploy the plasma nets. Whatever is coming, we crush it before it reaches orbit. None of them dared argue. The Threx Dominion had never lost a planetary siege, and Karthvak intended to keep it that way. On the surface, Mara gathered her small team in the bunker's command room. The faint hum of broken machinery surrounded them. She pointed at the star map on the wall. Where a red marker blinked, the location of the anomaly. That's where it will come through, she said quietly. Eli, the youngest soldier, swallowed hard. And if it's not a Terran ship? Then we die fighting anyway, Mara answered, but we'll know we stood our ground. The room fell silent. They all knew what was at stake. This colony wasn't just a home. It was the last Terran outpost on this side of the galaxy. If it fell, there would be nothing left to warn Earth. Hours passed, the scanners beeped again, faster. Louder, then suddenly every system shut down at once. Lights flickered, comms died, and the air filled with static electricity strong enough to make everyone's hair rise. The engineers panicked. EMP wave! Sarah shouted. It's shutting everything down! But Mara knew better. No, she whispered. It's not an attack, it's an arrival, above the planet. The stars began to bend, space itself seemed to twist, as if something enormous was trying to break through reality. The Threx fleet opened fire blindly, filling the void with plasma fire and torpedoes. The shots vanished into darkness. No impact, no explosion. Then came the sound. A deep vibration that shook every structure on Virelia 9. The ground trembled, dust fell from ceilings, and even the alien ships began to drift off formation. From the distortion emerged a shape, black as night and larger than anything human eyes had ever seen. Its armor was scarred, burned, ancient, yet alive. The Terran Dreadnought Retribution had arrived. Its engines glowed like suns, and its hull carried markings in an old Terran language, symbols of wars long forgotten. On the Dominator, Karthvak's eyes widened. What is that thing? He hissed. His science officer trembled. Admiral, it's generating its own gravity well. It's pulling in light itself. Karthvak snarled. Fire everything! The Threx fleet unleashed hell. Plasma blasts, rail slugs. energy lances all slamming into the dreadnought. But the retribution didn't move. Its shields rippled like water, absorbing the entire barrage without a mark. Then, in one single breath, it answered. A beam of blue plasma erupted from its forward cannons, bright enough to light the entire planet's surface. It cut through 3 Threx cruisers instantly, slicing them in half. The shockwave reached Virelia 9 seconds later. Shaking the bunkers, Mara and her people ran outside. They looked up and saw the sky on fire, and for the first time, it wasn't from the enemy, it was Terran fire. Sarah fell to her knees, tears running down her face. "It's real," she whispered. "The retribution is real." Mara's lips curved into a tired smile. "I told you," she said softly. "Earth doesn't forget." In orbit, chaos spread through the Threx ranks. The dreadnought moved like a ghost, its weapons firing with precision beyond comprehension. Every shot hit its mark, every movement was deliberate. Admiral Karthvak roared in anger. "It's just one ship. One ship can't defeat us all." But deep inside, he already knew this wasn't just a ship. It was a message. The retribution wasn't here to save one colony. It was here to remind the galaxy that humanity still fought back. Down on Virelia 9, Mara lifted her radio. Static filled the air, then a deep, steady voice came through. "This is Admiral Kieran Holt of the Terran Dreadnought Retribution. To all survivors, hold the line. You are not forgotten." The sound of that voice echoed across every human heart on the planet. They were no longer alone, and as the Threx fleet burned in the dark, Mara whispered to herself, "Let the galaxy watch. Earth has returned." The silence was gone now. The storm had begun. The darkness above Virelia 9 burned with light. Every ship, every star seemed to tremble as the Terran Dreadnought Retribution came to life. Its engines flared like a rising sun, and the hum of its core shook space itself. On the surface, Captain Mara Voss and the colonists watched in silence. The sky glowed blue and white as the Retribution's weapons charged. It looked like an ancient god had awakened after 1,000 years of sleep. "What? What is it doing?" whispered Eli, shielding his eyes from the light. Mara smiled faintly. "It's reminding them who we are, aboard the Threx flagship Dominator." Admiral Karthvak shouted orders. "Flank the Terran ship. Overload the plasma batteries. Bring it down before it charges again." Hundreds of alien cruisers moved at once, their engines burning crimson. They surrounded the massive human vessel, confident in their numbers. But the Retribution didn't move. It simply watched. Its weapon systems powered up one by one. Plasma cannons, railguns, energy projectors, each one glowing brighter than the last. Then came a voice, broadcast across every open frequency in the system. A voice calm, deep, and human. "Protocol Omega, humanity stands unbroken." The first volley hit. The dreadnought unleashed a storm of fire so powerful it looked like the stars themselves were dying. Beams of energy cut through Threx warships like blades through ice. In seconds, the alien formation collapsed, ships burning, hulls breaking apart in the vacuum. On the Dominator, chaos erupted, shields failing. "We're losing control," screamed a Threx officer. Karthvak's claws dug into the console. "No." "Hold formation!" "It's just one ship." But he was lying. To himself, to his crew, to his empire. Because no single ship should have had that kind of power. Down on the planet, every explosion lit up the sky. The colonists cheered each time another alien cruiser fell. For the first time in weeks, they weren't running. They were witnessing vengeance. Mara watched quietly, her eyes reflecting the light of the battle. "Admiral Holt," she whispered, "you beautiful madman." Inside the dreadnought, Admiral Kieran Holt stood on the command bridge. The room was dark, lit only by holographic displays and the faint blue glow of the ship's AI core. "Target priority," he said calmly. A smooth, mechanical voice answered. "The ship's AI. Valor 9. Enemy command vessel identified. Suggest direct strike." "Approved," Holt replied. The dreadnought's cannons adjusted, locking onto the Threx flagship Dominator. Admiral Karthvak saw the targeting beam hit his ship and roared, "Return fire! All weapons!" Thousands of plasma bolts filled the void, but the Retribution advanced through them. Every hit simply rolled across its shields like waves against stone. Then the dreadnought fired, a single rail slug, 10 meters wide, moving at near light speed, tore through space and smashed into the Dominator. The impact vaporized half the Threx command deck. Alarms screamed, fires spread, and Karthvak was thrown from his chair. The alien admiral stared at the burning hologram of his fleet. Half gone, the rest fleeing, his pride turned to terror. That ship should not exist, he hissed. On the surface, Mara's radio came alive again. "This is Retribution Command," the voice of Admiral Holt said. "Enemy fleet status, neutralized by 60%. Reinforcement en route. Ground survivors, prepare for extraction." Mara pressed her hand to her earpiece, smiling for the first time in days. "Copy that, Retribution. We'll hold until you arrive." But even as she spoke, a new alarm blared in the bunker. Sarah, the technician, looked at her console, her face turning pale. "Captain, something's happening on the Threx side." "What kind of something?" Mara asked. "Their remaining ships. They're forming up around a central vessel. They're charging something big. Up in orbit, the Dominator, half destroyed, began powering up a massive energy weapon built into its spine, the Planet Cradle Cannon. Designed to destroy entire colonies, it began drawing power from every remaining Threx ship. The sky above Virelia started to shimmer red. The air grew heavy and the sensors screamed warnings. "They're trying to destroy the planet," Holt said, staring at the readings. "Valor status? Critical energy buildup detected. Impact in 5 minutes." The Admiral took a deep breath. "Then we end this now." The Retribution turned sharply, its thrusters roaring as it charged toward the Dominator. Its railguns fired in continuous bursts, tearing through the enemy formation. But it wasn't enough. The Threx cannon was nearly charged. Holt's eyes hardened. "Override weapon limiters," he ordered. "Valor, prepare plasma core detonation sequence." "Warning," the AI replied. "This action will destabilize primary reactor." "Do it," Holt said. His voice was steady, filled with the calm of a man who had already accepted the cost. From the surface, Mara and her people saw the Dreadnought's hull glow brighter and brighter. "What is he doing?" Eli shouted. "He's going to end it," Mara whispered. The Retribution unleashed a final shot, a beam so bright it tore through the Threx cannon, vaporizing the Dominator in a blinding explosion. The shockwave rippled through space, destroying the remaining enemy ships. The blast lit up the planet's night sky for nearly a full minute. When it faded, silence returned. The Retribution drifted in orbit, its hull scorched, smoke trailing from its engines. But it still stood. Mara looked up through the cracked roof of the bunker and smiled. "He did it," she whispered. "He saved us all." The Dreadnought's roar had silenced the stars, and across the galaxy, the legend of Earth's wrath had been reborn. The silence after the battle was haunting. Space above Virelia 9 was filled with drifting wreckage, broken alien ships, shattered debris and trails of burning plasma. The once mighty Threx Dominion fleet was gone, wiped out by a single Terran Dreadnought. The Retribution floated among the ruins, its black armor glowing faintly red from the heat of battle. Its cannons were silent now, but the air still hummed with leftover energy. Every sensor on the planet recorded the same thing. The impossible had happened. One human ship had destroyed an entire armada on the surface. Captain Mara Voss stepped outside the bunker. Ash fell from the sky like grey snow. The twin suns of Virelia peeked through the smoke, lighting the horizon. Her people gathered around her, tired, injured but alive. For the first time in weeks, they could breathe without fear. Then the radio crackled again. A familiar voice came through, steady and strong. "This is Admiral Kieran Holt of the Terran Dreadnought Retribution. To all survivors on Virelia 9, stand by for communication relay. We have heard your call. Earth has not forgotten." Every speaker across the colony carried his voice. Miners, engineers, soldiers, even children froze where they stood. Listening, the words hit like thunder in their hearts. The message wasn't just for them. It was for every human who thought they had been abandoned. "For too long," Holt continued, "the stars believed humanity had gone silent, that Earth had bowed, that Terrans were no longer a power worth fearing. Today, the galaxy has its answer. We fight, we endure, and we return." His voice echoed through the canyons and across the dark skies. Mara closed her eyes, letting the words sink in. She knew the rest of the galaxy was hearing this broadcast too. Every planet, every station, every fleet, even the Galactic Council that had abandoned them. Somewhere in the capital system of the Council, diplomats and admirals stood in silence. Holt's transmission was being played on every channel. The image of the burning Threx fleet hovered above their tables. An aide whispered, "Sir, that ship, it shouldn't exist," the elder counselor replied quietly. "It's not just a ship," he said. "It's a message." Back on Virelia 9, the colonists celebrated. Laughter echoed through the broken streets. Children ran between the ruins waving makeshift flags with the old Terran insignia. The soldiers smiled, though tears still streaked their faces for once. They weren't just survivors, they were witnesses. But Mara wasn't smiling. She stared at the sky, frowning. The retribution was still there, emotionless. "Something's wrong," she said. "Look," Sarah whispered, pointing to the scanner. "Its energy signature is unstable." Above them, the Dreadnought's engines flickered. The ship had taken massive damage. The plasma core was nearly spent. On the bridge, Admiral Holt stood with Valor 9. The ship's AI. "Core status?" Holt asked. "Reactor integrity at 32%. Primary cannon offline. Shield emitters unresponsive. And the crew? Alive. Minimal casualties." Holt sighed in relief. "That's enough," he said softly. "We've done our job." Valor's holographic form turned toward him, its blue eyes glowing faintly. "Transmission range now covers all known human colonies," it said. "Would you like to continue broadcasting?" "Yes," Holt nodded. "Let every human out there know we're still here." Moments later, every Terran frequency in the galaxy lit up with a single signal. "From the ashes of silence, we rise. From the darkness of exile, we return. This is the Terran Dreadnought retribution. Humanity endures," the message repeated again and again. On distant colonies, people cried. On forgotten outposts, lights came back online. And on planets once ruled by fear, the sound of the retribution's transmission became a rallying cry. But far away, deep within the Threx dominion, the surviving warlords listened in rage. Their fleets burned, their pride shattered. The name Retribution spread among them like a curse. They swore vengeance. "If one Terran ship could do this," hissed a Threx commander. "How many more are sleeping beneath their oceans?" Meanwhile, on Virelia 9, Mara and her people worked to rebuild their base. They collected what supplies remained, patched comm towers, and tended to the wounded. But every few hours, she looked up at the black shape in orbit. The Retribution stayed silent, watching, guarding. One evening, as the sun set, her radio crackled again. "Captain Voss," came Admiral Holt's voice, weak but calm. "We've transferred you command of all ground survivors. My ship will begin reactor stabilization. If we fail, we'll fall into the planet's gravity. I need you to be ready." Mara froze. "Admiral, you can't—" "Captain," he interrupted. "Earth didn't send us to live forever. It sent us to make sure the galaxy remembers." Then the line went dead. Above the planet, the Retribution began to move again. Slowly, its engines reignited, sending waves of light across the stars. It turned its massive hull toward the void, toward the stars where more human colonies were still waiting for help. And as it accelerated into deep space, its last message echoed once more across every frequency. "Humanity stands unbroken." Mara saluted the fading light of the Dreadnought, her voice barely a whisper. "Go, Admiral," she said. "Let them remember what happens when they forget who we are." The Retribution vanished into the dark, but its roar still echoed through the stars. A promise and a warning. The stars were quiet again. But silence after war never meant peace. It meant something was coming, something watching. Far beyond the system of Virelia 9, the Terran Dreadnought Retribution sailed through the dark. Her hull was scorched, her systems broken, and her crew exhausted. Yet her engines still burned faintly blue, a heartbeat refusing to die. Admiral Kieran Holt stood at the command bridge, staring at the long shadow of space ahead. His face was pale, his hands trembling slightly. Weeks of battle had taken their toll, but there was a light in his eyes. The same fire that had driven humanity through centuries of loss and struggle. Valor, he said quietly. Status report. The ship's AI flickered into form beside him. Calm, glowing, loyal. Core stabilized at 27%, it said. Propulsion holding, communications array offline. And our message? Holt asked. Still echoing, Valor replied. Across 13 sectors, 40 colonies, and every Terran frequency still alive. Holt smiled faintly. The thought comforted him. Humanity wasn't alone anymore. Each word of that broadcast had woken something ancient in human hearts. Something the galaxy had forgotten, Earth's wrath meanwhile. In the shadows of the Galactic Council's central world, leaders argued in silence. The holoscreens showed endless footage of burning Threx ships. The name Retribution glowed in red across every report. The councillors looked at each other, pale, shaken. If one ship can do this, said one alien official, what happens when more appear? They said the Terrans had fallen, whispered another. That Earth was gone. Maybe it was sleeping, murmured a third. And now it's awake, back in the dark between stars. Holt's ship drifted near a region called the Silent Expanse. No signals, no stars, just endless black. But deep inside that darkness, the Retribution detected something. Movement. Valor's tone changed. Admiral, it said. I am detecting mass signatures. Large, unknown, hostile, Holt asked, gripping the command rail. Unclear. Then the blackness came alive. Dozens of faint blue lights blinked on, like eyes opening in the void. The screens filled with unknown ship silhouettes. Each massive, ancient and cloaked in darkness. Holt frowned. Identify, he ordered. Valor hesitated, then whispered, Admiral, they're not alien. They're Terran. A chill went through the entire bridge. Sleeping war machines, relics from humanity's forgotten wars, hidden in the dark. Their hulls carried old Earth markings. Names faded but still readable. Aegis, Vanguard, Eclipse, Leviathan. How long have they been here? Holt asked. Hundreds of years, said Valor, waiting for a signal. A signal? Yes, the AI said softly. The one we just sent. The crew stared at each other. Realization spreading. The Retribution's broadcast hadn't just reached human colonies. It had reached the old fleet. The ones that had gone missing after Earth's fall. Ships buried in deep space, waiting for a voice from home. Slowly, the massive ships powered up one by one. Engines glowed blue in the darkness. Cannons hummed with ancient energy. They turned toward the Retribution, and then, without a word, they transmitted a single message across every Terran channel. Command acknowledged. Earth still stands, awaiting orders. The bridge fell silent. Holt closed his eyes, overwhelmed. Tears formed, but he didn't hide them. Humanity had not been wiped out. It had been waiting. The ghosts of Earth's fleets were waking. Each one a piece of vengeance frozen in time. Valor, Holt said slowly. Patch me through to all ships. Connected, the AI replied. Holt took a deep breath, then spoke. This is Admiral Kieran Holt of the Terran Dreadnought Retribution. We are the last survivors of Viralia 9. If you can hear me, it's time to come home. Across the void, engines roared to life. Thousands of dormant Terran vessels aligned into formation. Silent, vast, unstoppable, their hulls reflected faint light from distant stars, forming a trail of silver across the black. The galaxy would see this fleet and remember fear. Valor looked at Holt. What now, Admiral? He stared at the glowing horizon of deep space. Now, he said, now we remind the stars what happens when they cross Earth. On Viralia 9. Months later, Captain Mara Voss looked up at the night sky. Dozens of bright trails crossed the heavens. The Retribution and the awakened fleet leaving for unknown systems. Beside her, the children of the colony watched in silence. Is that them? One child asked. Yes, Mara whispered. That's Earth's answer. The lights faded, vanishing into the dark between stars, but the promise they carried remained. A warning written across the void. Humanity would never again be forgotten. And somewhere, far beyond known space, the Retribution led the Terran fleet into the uncharted black. Engines blazing, banners raised, their message still echoing across the galaxy. From silence we rise, from darkness we return. We are humanity, and we are coming home.